Welcome back to CAN, Caribbean Affiliate News. This segment is sponsored by Total Caribbean Network. In St. Vincent, the main opposition New Democratic Party says it would hold a protest march and 2 public protest meetings in support of legislator Vinette Frederick, who was arrested last week. Frederick was slapped with 9 charges relating to making false declarations, swearing falsely, and fabricating evidence hours after a magistrate dismissed 6 charges against her. The initial charges stem from a private complaint that Frederick had made against Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves following the December 2010 general elections. Frederick will appear in court on July 31st in relation to answer the new charges. NDP and opposition leader Arnhem Eustace said that the events will highlight the erosion of rights under our Constitution and the constant decline of our rights under the Constitution. End of quote. The first public meeting is scheduled for Saturday and the other on Tuesday next week, and Eustace said the meetings will focus on Frederick's arrest and 1 or 2 critical issues, but our main concentration will be on the erosion of rights and in fact the persecution of some people in our society, he says. He said on July 26, the NDP will march from its headquarters to the financial complex in central Kingstown, where the office of the Prime Minister is located, and protest there for a few hours. The party will hold a prayer vigil the day before Frederick is scheduled to appear in court. The former Prime Minister of Barbados has urged the Bahamas to conduct in-depth studies to determine the likely impact of value-added tax on prices, revenues, and the productive sector, since any erosion of tax base could cause it to fail to generate sufficient revenue. In a speech to the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce on Monday night, Owen Arthur said that the features of the VAT system proposed by the Bahamas government met best standards and practices found in VAT taxation in countries in which it is a primary form of tax. However, the former Prime Minister who implemented VAT in Barbados during his tenure warned that tax-based erosion via VAT implementation or failure to secure broad-based compliance would hinder the tax effectiveness. He called upon the Bahamian government to undertake significant public outreach and consultation on the legislation to encourage a strong stakeholder sense of ownership of the new tax. His comments in this regard should strike a chord with many in the Bahamian private sector who have complained about a lack of information and consultation in relation to VAT implementation plans. Arthur also warned of the need to maintain fiscal expenditure discipline after the tax is imposed. Speaking in support of the idea of a VAT in the Bahamas in theory, Arthur said that he sees the introduction of a VAT regime as necessary to avoid problematic levels of public debt in the Bahamas and to allow the Bahamas to meet its international obligations to organizations such as the World Trade Organization. Arthur said his confidence that the Bahamas can implement VAT well draws upon the fact that VAT was introduced in Barbados under more challenging circumstances than currently faces the Bahamas as you contemplate its introduction. The Communication Workers Union has threatened to shut down all TSTT locations if the health and safety concerns of the company's workers are not addressed. The union said yesterday for far too long, workers at the company have been complaining of unsafe working conditions. Speaking at a news conference at the Oilfield Workers Trade Union's Paramount building in San Fernando yesterday, CWU President Joseph Remy said instead of addressing these problems, TSTT has instead victimized workers for standing up for their rights. Remy called on the company to take all the necessary steps to ensure that all health and safety issues, including the provision of protection, clothing for its staff, are addressed immediately. Remy added, and I quote, "We once again wish to remind the company that when they invade people's property, that people have all the legitimate right to take action to safeguard that property. It is natural that when workers, when threatened, would react to ensure that their property, which are their jobs, are protected and that all such threats are eliminated." Local financial institutions will have to fork out more cash to meet global requirements to fight money laundering, according to a survey, the Global Cost of Anti-Money Laundering Compliance by Washington, D.C.'s various consulting company demands for compliance remain a significant cost factor for financial institutions globally. A various survey said 284 entities responded to its survey covering 46 countries and with 89% being multinational financial institutions. The bulk of the survey's respondents included regional and U.S. banks across the operational spectrum of retail, corporate and business banking, private banking and wholesale banking, followed by broker-dealers, money service business, and other types of financial institutions. The findings of the survey will have only confirmed what the financial institutions in Guyana already know, that monies will have to be spent to introduce systems and maybe hire more staffers to ensure critical reports are submitted to monitoring agencies. Guyana is currently piloting amendments to the Anti-Money Laundering and Countering the Financing of Terrorism Bill 2013. Guyana has until August 26 to submit documents pertaining to its readiness to the regional oversight body, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. In November, this will be reviewed. The opposition refused to hurry up the proposed amended laws when it was presented to the National Assembly earlier this year. Rather, they sent it to a special Parliament Select Committee. With the National Assembly scheduled to go on recess next month, the race will be on to have it ready in time for August 26 deadline. Guyana could face sanctions if it fails to pass certain AML laws and implement changes before the November dates. Also in Guyana, the Regional Coordinating Mechanism for Global Fund Projects will meet in Jamaica today. The three-day gathering coincides with the 20th meeting of the Executive Board of the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV and AIDS, PANCAP, taking place under the chairmanship of Jamaica's Health Minister, Dr. Fenton Ferguson. The Executive Board has responsibility for providing policy guidance on the effective management and operation of the partnership and will review the issues and recommendations of importance to the grouping. Outgoing PANCAP Director Juliet Sutherland will present a report. And I quote, "This 20th meeting will focus on the strategic and programmatic direction of the partnership over the next years, through a consultative process to develop a new Caribbean regional strategic framework. The last framework agreement came to an end in 2012. A summary presentation of the evaluation of the Caribbean Regional Strategic Framework 2008 to 2012 and the performance of the partnership in this context will also be delivered, according to a statement issued there by PANCAP. It said the fifth meeting of the RCM for Global Fund Projects will receive several reports, including a review of Phase 1 of the Global Fund grant and an update on the implementation of the program of work for Phase 2 of the grant. PANCAP is the regional partnership which was established in February 2001 to respond to the HIV and AIDS epidemic in the Caribbean. Its vision is to substantially reduce the spread and impact of HIV and AIDS in the Caribbean through sustainable systems of universal access to HIV prevention, treatment, care, and support. You are watching Caribbean Affiliate News. Stay tuned.
It's week 2 of our used car blowout month, and this week it's guaranteed credit approval. If we can't show you how to get approved, that car is on us. Log on now, GrecoAuto.com.